And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and I'm here to bring you the Thursday Night Football preview between the Saints and the Jaguars. As usual, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification button so you get all the video drops that we do throughout the week, including shorts and updates. If you haven't had a chance to check out the ones from this week, go back and take a look. And obviously, coming up on Saturday morning, we will be dropping our full weekend slate preview for all of you to view and get ready for your weekend showdowns. Let's jump into the content today. So let's talk about some starts and sits for this Thursday night football matchup. This, to me, is a very heavily defensive matchup. However, there's opportunities on offense from both these teams through the air for stuff to happen. To me, I think this is a good start position for Derek Carr this week. He's threw for 300 yards, 353 to be exact. This past week, he was QB 10, and with there being quote-unquote bye-mageddon that everybody's throwing the term around because there's 6 teams on bye, I think this is a good opportunity to get Derek Carr into your lineups, especially with some of the injuries we also have there. Don't expect a ton of TDs from him because he hasn't been producing them. He's only had one game with two touchdowns, a couple without a touchdown. This previous game where he did play pretty well against Houston, he was only able to throw for one touchdown, but the 353 yards. So they're either putting the ball into the end zone on the ground or they're having to settle for field goals and not getting into the end zone. In terms of Kamara, I like the position here just because he's got a safe floor. With his volume through the passing game, I think it gives you a good opportunity because the past 2 weeks he's been running back 6 and running back 15 in standard scoring. He's had at least 80 total yards. He's projected about 80 total yards in this game here and then give or take a touchdown. To me, the floor is a little bit higher because of the target share he does have in this passing game. I think with the Jaguars being good against the run, they could hold him. Now, that being said, they have had some holes in their running defense, the Jaguars that is, because they have given up some big rushing games to people like Bijan Robinson. However, they did just hold the Colts last week with Zach Moss, who's been on fire, to low yardage. Same with Jonathan Taylor. So it could go either way. I'm going to err on the side that they're going to be able to stop Kamara because they haven't actually been that great on the ground, the Saints that is, and he's going to get his yardage through the air. So I am going to say start him because the options are also very thin at the running back position with multiple running backs like Henry and Pollard and others that are on bye. The pass catchers here are the ones that you're really going to want to focus on. Now, Chris Olave is a start. He's starting to heat up a little bit. He had massive target share this past week, 10-plus targets in 4 out of 6 weeks this season. I expect another 10-plus target game here. Michael Thomas is a sneaky play too as well. If you're looking for a flex start and you've got Thomas on your bench, go ahead because they have fared well pretty good for him. And the fact that he lines up in the slot some of the time too, that has also benefited slot receivers against Jacksonville. So look to Michael Thomas a little bit. Rashid Shaheed is going to be a sleeper, and I feel like he's going to be a sleeper every week for us because he's got that boom or bust potential. This is a chance for it to be boom because of the pass volume that I expect out of the Saints, and that's what happened last week, and that's what happened week 1. And so I think because of that, Shaheed has a chance to score. I like Thomas and Olave over Shaheed. If you're throwing a dart throw out there and need to start somebody at a flex, then Shaheed, you got to... It's like throwing Jameson Williams out there. It's like throwing Jalen Hyatt out there. These guys have, big play potential. However, the chance of them falling flat in terms of yardage and in terms of production could be there too as well. Taysom Hill is your tight end 1 right now for the Saints as of last week. I mean, he had 8 targets, caught 7 passes for 49 yards. That's traditional tight end work. Now, it depends on how your league is set up. Know what your league is. Is he listed as just a quarterback still, or is he listed as a quarterback tight end? Because in sleeper leagues, he is listed as a quarterback, and it's difficult to be able to put him into the tight end spot if it's locked in that position. So I have him as a sit just because of that alone. But plus, to me, the targets are going to be everywhere for this team. And I just don't want to say start all these Saints because the Jaguars defense has held opponents to 20 points or less in October. So we're going on the 4th game that they're playing in October. There's a chance here that they hold the Saints to 20 points or less because the Saints haven't been blowing people out except for that Patriots game. So be a little bit weary. I don't want to say start too many people. And plus, Taysom Hill, I think there's better options out there, especially in this game alone with Evan Ingram. And then you're going to play the Saints defense. They're one of the better defenses in the league. They cause plenty of turnovers. They get to the quarterback. I just like what they can do. And if there's any shot that Trevor Lawrence does not play, which it's kind of on the fence right now, it's leaning towards he's playing. But if he does not play, even the fact that if he does play and he's not going to be as mobile, that creates a disadvantage for the Jaguars. And I like the Saints here. Speaking of the Jaguars, why don't we roll over to what their lineup looks like and what I'm thinking here. So I have Trevor Lawrence as a sit, and to me, that's mostly based on the past couple games he's played that he's quote-unquote underperformed. I haven't been happy with all of his play there. However, he's been saved by some of his players. He has had consistent 17 to 18-point weeks in the past 4 weeks. But he's been outside the top 10 in terms of quarterback play. Now, that could change in terms of that top 10 number because of the amount of quarterbacks that are on bye. But that being said, if his knee is hindering him and he doesn't have the opportunity to run and be mobile, I fear that his worst games were in games where he did not run as much. But that's not necessarily the case. He just may throw a little bit more. I just like the dynamic ability he brings when he can use his legs. The Saints are top 10 against quarterbacks so far in fantasy scoring, so I don't like that either. To me, I think the best play here is if you can get someone like Sam Howell, if you can pick up Derek Carr, if you can go get Jimmy G plays, which it doesn't look like he's going to, that may be a better option. But if this is the guy you got because of bye weeks to someone like CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, some other guys, then yeah, throw him in there, and you're going to look to a guy that hopes he gets 2 touchdowns here and throws for about 250, 300 yards. Now, Etienne is somebody who's been faring pretty well. He's the RB4 currently in standard scoring fantasy. He should see plenty of volume in the backfield, especially if Trevor Lawrence is not going to be mobile. I've got him as a start. He could get stunted on the ground a little bit more like he did last week, but if he gets in the end zone, it doesn't matter. He should also see an uptick in volume and maybe some checkdowns just because Lawrence may be getting rid of the ball a little bit more since he's not going to be as mobile and trying to extend plays that way. So that could benefit him there as well. I don't like Tank Bigsby yet. It is still a stash guy on my bench if you have the roster position and the numbers on the bench for you to do that, because there is an opportunity that he could be big. Obviously, you're not hoping for an injury to Travis Etienne. Let's be honest. Nobody hopes for injuries. But if you're a Tank Bigsby owner, that's your only big ticket into getting great fantasy value out of him, unless this team all of a sudden decides they want to go 50-50 split, which I don't see the way Travis Etienne's running the ball, that happening. Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, I'm saying start Ridley. It is going to be a difficult start for him. Zay Jones is an out for week 7. He's not playing, so that's why he's a sit for us. I would say Ridley would have been a sit for me as well this week if Zay was playing. He may still quite be, temper your expectations with him, because he still could be a sit in the fact that Lattimore and Adebo are actually pretty good outside coverage cornerbacks against the receiver, especially Lattimore. And if he gets shadowed by Lattimore, that's going to be a tough day for him. If they decide to do press coverage, we've seen the output that he's been giving out there. It hasn't been great in terms of fantasy output when he faces press man coverage. So I'm assuming that may be what they do, especially with Lattimore. So temper your expectations. If you have somebody else to throw out there, you may want to. I'm thinking he's going to give you wide receiver 3 flex output if that's the case. If they on man coverage plays, he has opportunities to give you wide receiver 2 output. I think Christian Kirk is a wide receiver to play and to own in this game here, because the slot cornerback has not been that great against slot receivers. And let's be honest, Christian Kirk's one of the best, if not the best, slot receiver in football right now. And he was last year. So fire up Kirk. They're going to have to throw the ball here because the running defense for the Saints is pretty good. Evan Ingram I have as a sleeper. I put him as a sleeper because I could go either way on the fence. Tight end position is so volatile. Ingram has had at least 7 targets in 5 of 6 weeks, so I like that. But his output hasn't been that great. to me. He's had the Saints defense has only given up one game of over 50 yards to a tight end, and they've only given up 2 touchdowns to tight end. Now, it happened to be last week against Dalton Schultz that it was over 50 yards and a touchdown to the tight end position. But I think with the pass catchers of Christian Kirk and some of the other, and the relationship there, and also the ability to not extend the plays, maybe they decide to build Evan Ingram into this as well, and they get him going like they did towards the end of last year. Some plays out the side on the flat, maybe a couple running plays, maybe something different to keep the Saints defense in check. That's why I have him as a sleeper. But again, just like Calvin Ridley, temper your expectations because it can go the opposite. He can still get those 7 targets and finish with like 35, 40 yards. And in the tight end grand scheme of things, maybe that's decent enough for you. And if you're in PPR, he catches 6 balls. I think that's great because he gets into double digit. But if you're in standard scoring, you're looking for the touchdowns here. And the Saints aren't the place that gives up touchdowns to the tight end position very often. So temper those expectations. Jaguars defense I have as a start here too, because the Saints have been known to give up the ball, especially Derek Carr. He does throw interceptions. I like the opportunity for the Jacksonville defense to keep this scoring low and keep them under 20 points for all of October in terms of their opponents, as well as on top of that, get a couple takeaways from Derek Carr. So this may be a game too. You can fire up your kickers. If Trevor Lawrence is playing, I do like Jacksonville's kicker McManus. If he is not playing, I am staying away from the kickers in here just because you need good offense to get yourselves in field goal position. So that's all for the Thursday night football preview. It's quick to the point. If you have any questions and thoughts on the starts and sits, feel free to drop a comment. If you have a question yourself, if you should start so-and-so over so-and-so, drop a comment. We're happy to get back to you. We like to get back to our viewers as quickly as possible so we can get you the best advice right away. You can always email us at the standardfantasy at gmail.com, and you can also direct message us too, either on YouTube or on Instagram as well. So as always, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification button so you get all the future videos that we drop. And as always, see you next time.